Europe is gearing up for World War III and is preparing survival guides, nuclear bunkers and implementing conscription to survive a possible invasion by Russia. The continent is rearming as it fears Vladimir Putin is only years away from a war to push Nato out of Eastern Europe and rebuild the Russian Empire. The EU believes Russia could attack at some point around 2030 if it is successful in Ukraine, and the Commission has said the bloc must prepare for a large-scale war with Moscow. Countries are preparing their citizens for a brutal fight, with calls for Britain to join the European nations already conscripting their people into growing armies. Civilians are also being prepared on how to deal with surviving an invasion. France is the latest country set to issue an invasion survival how-to guide for its citizens. The 20-page booklet will give advice to French civilians on how to defend the Republic by signing up to reserve units or local defence efforts. The 20-page booklet will give advice to French civilians on how to defend the Republic by signing up to reserve units or local defence efforts if the worst was to happen. It will also have tips on how to create a survival kit, with essentials including 6 litres of water, canned food, batteries and basic medical supplies. Earlier this week, Macron revealed that French fighter jets equipped with a new generation of hypersonic nuclear missiles are now stationed on the border with allied Germany. The Germans sit under the protection of the Gallic nuclear umbrella, something which Poland now also wants. Warsaw is looking at getting nuclear weapon protection from either Paris or Washington DC and is set to implement conscription for all men. Norwegian officials are also preparing for mass evacuation drills for its citizens in some of its most northern towns. The country, which shares a 121-mile border with Russia in the Arctic, is hosting a Nato exercise next year and wants civilians to also take part. Locals will have to flee westward or south into Finland in order to escape the imaginary advancing Russian troops. Local Mayor Toralf Heimdall said, quote, "We cannot have a single Norwegian on the wrong side of the occupation line." Nordic citizens have already been provided with terrifying war survival guides. In November, pamphlets landed in Swedish homes eerily titled "If Crisis or War Comes," as other Nordic nations have also issued their own chilling advice. Neighbouring Finland has published its advice online and urged civilians to prepare for incidents and crises. Norwegians have received a pamphlet urging residents to know how to manage on their own for a week in the event of extreme weather or war. In summer, Denmark's Emergency Management Agency put out a warning to Danish adults detailing the water, food and medicine necessary to get through 3 days of crisis. Sweden and Finland recently gave up neutrality to join NATO after witnessing the atrocities had unleashed in Ukraine since 2022. Germany's World War III preparation plans have already been revealed in a 1,000-page secret document dubbed Operation Deutschland. According to the Frankfurter Allgemeine, the top secret papers reveal specific buildings and infrastructure facilities that need specific protection in an emergency for military reasons. The government is also drawing up a list of bunkers that could provide shelter to civilians. The Interior Ministry announced underground train stations, car parks, state buildings and private property could all be harnessed for protection. Berlin is also reportedly prepared to move 200,000 vehicles as well as 800,000 NATO troops across its land if the situation with Russia turned to all-out war. In the last couple of weeks, the EU has started a colossal spending plan to rebuild its armies and support Ukraine. The bloc is set to spend as much as €800 billion, which is about £500 billion, on defence as it prepares for its long-term defence. Europe is eyeing building a drone shield from the Baltic to the Black Sea as it looks to deter a Russian invasion and make the possibility too painful for Putin to consider.